This week, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to take you through my design and drawing process, showing you not only the tools I use, but also some of the drills I occasionally do, together with some do's and don'ts and tips that have helped me in my drawing process. Alongside physically making pots, I've always drawn quite a lot in the background, albeit something that tends to come in waves at the moment. I don't necessarily draw every single shape I make, but I find it much easier to fill a page with rough ideas in order to explore proportion and subtle changes in shape before committing to 1 or 2 ideas and then following those. It's far more efficient, I think, and I find it streamlines my ideas as compared to attempting to make every single shape in 3 dimensions and then whittling out those you obviously don't quite like. Essentially, sketching is a way for me to refine the ideas in my head, and I think it's also helped me to define my style further. Ultimately, drawing is a skill just like making pottery. If you don't invest time in it in practice, it won't improve. But with that said, my aim has never been to draw photorealistic pots. It's simply a tool to help me realise my ideas in paper before transferring them into actual objects. I also think it's helped from a technical perspective, as drawing things like the cross-sections of pots helps me to realise the shapes I'm making when I'm throwing and trimming them. How different parts fit together, how the galleries on teapots need to be shaped, and how the lids slot into the openings. By exploring all of these on paper, I feel like I'm expanding how I can see the 3-dimensional pots I'm making as I can really visualise their cross-sections. What I'm showing you now are drawings from my archive. Teapots, specifically, as I think they're interesting objects to draw, as my approach has always been that they're essentially just an assembly of different shapes that are attached together. Again, that idea is sort of what helps me visualise them as I draw them. And this is also something that happens when you're making pottery on the wheel. Ultimately, many of the different shapes you'll throw are essentially a combination of cylinders and bowls, and often these basic forms make up the basis of the pots you create, even if it isn't really apparent in the end product. The other great thing drawing does is it lets you see the bad ideas. You can quickly draw and test things that you would never really make, as they feel so alien to the rest of the work you produce. This is what I meant by it being a way of refining your ideas, as of course I'm an advocate of knowing what sort of styles you like. I think it's equally important to know those you dislike, or I suppose aren't quite as attracted to. Anyway, I think it's also important to know that drawing isn't always the same thing. Sometimes they're very rough and scribbled. These are quick iterations penned out simply to get an idea that was in my head out visually on paper. And there are other times where I'm a lot more careful with my drawings. I'll spend some time initially sketching the shapes out with a pencil, which these are a good example of. Then I'll use a pen to draw over these, after which I'll erase the rough pencil. Then there are these rapid, rough sketches, which I do immediately with pen, loosely and without much forethought. There's a number of times where I've done some more serious drawings, which have been framed and sold. These illustrations are done a lot more carefully. Over the years of sharing these drawings occasionally on Instagram, prints are something that I've been asked to sell a couple of times. And we actually finally did this at a solo exhibition of mine at Yorkshire Sculpture Park in 2023. And from what I've heard, there are actually a couple of these left in stock on their website, a link to which I'll leave in the description of this video. Anyway, drawing is really important to me, and it's something that I've done practically my entire life. And my father at times was a professional illustrator, and luckily I was sent to a school where drawing was something that we were encouraged to do every single day, and it was also incorporated into more academic subjects, such as maths and science. At the end of the day, if you're a craftsperson, I think being able to draw and visualise what it is you're intending to create is really important. And so, for my partner this year, for Christmas, I asked for a really nice sketchbook, as I think I'd been neglecting my drawing somewhat. These are some of my more recent sketches, many of which you might recall from recent YouTube videos, as I've been trying to incorporate this step into the content I create more. It's funny, I felt so rusty putting pen back onto paper, and I've actually even been looking back at my older illustrations and wondering how I did some of them. Again, most of these are quite rough. They're to inform my making and not much else. Anyhow, I think that's enough of an introduction. Next, I want to talk about the pens I like to use. For the most part, these Pigma Micron pens are my favourite, made by Sakura. I generally use the 0.1 for my initial line work, after which I'll strengthen some of the lines using a pen with a thicker nib, such as the 0.5 or the 0.8. These are archival ink, so they don't smudge nor bleed with water, as occasionally I'll do shading with watercolours, or brush pens like this. This is a light grey Uniball brush pen, which is great for some quick and easy shading. So, for the most part, these are the 3 pens I've been using, but the exact size of nib and the colour and method I shade with changes quite a lot. I've also been making more careful worksheets recently for the pots I make. Whenever I make a larger batch of work, I date them and draw out the measurements and some notes, and then laminate them so they don't get so covered in clay. My previous notebook that contained all my weights and measurements is so caked in clay and actually sun damaged, which means that much of the ink has faded. So I think it's time I take this part of creating pottery a bit more seriously. Now, before I start drawing pots, I want to take you through some of the drills I do just to warm my hand up. The first is all about ellipses. It's very rare when drawing pottery that you'll draw a perfect circle, as in most cases what you're drawing is an oval, an ellipse, and whilst it's easy to see in the openings of pots, there's also always one found in the base of the piece too. Essentially, for the most part, pots are tubes, and so if I'm doing some more serious drawing, I'll spend some time simply drawing ellipses on a piece of paper, changing their perspective from ellipse to ellipse, as if I was looking at a piece of pottery from different heights. It's this shape that you're essentially repeating time and time again when drawing pottery. And it can be a tricky shape. It's a squashed circle, but it's important to try and get them as even as you can. And if that means filling up dozens of sheets of cheap A4 paper, like this, then so be it. It's good practice. They aren't something I try and do in one stroke. Instead, I swing the pen around a couple of times until I feel they're more or less there. In many cases, I'll be doing this with a pencil, and once the ellipse is perfected, I can draw over it with a pen and then rub out the messier sketchwork underneath. You can see how this shape changes on the pots in front of you as you get lower and lower. So I think really drilling in these looping shapes with the curved corners is vitally important, as you can easily just draw pots by linking a few of these shapes together. They're the bones, almost, the sections that give structure to the pots. Another task I give myself is drawing out a bunch of flat ovals, like so, onto which I then draw lines to give the shape a more three-dimensional presence. These additional lines give these ovals presence, and it makes them stand out on the page. And this is something I'll be doing with all the pots I'll draw, so that they have more of a presence on the page. And the last exercise I do is mainly about how three-dimensional shapes interlock. So I begin by drawing out a collection of rough, straight-sided shapes, which I then give 3 dimensions, so I can see how they sort of interact with one another. I also do the same thing, and then draw little dotted lines where the lines would be, if I could see through the blocks in front of them. Ultimately, things like teapots are an assemblage of different shapes. And I find when attaching things such as the spout or the handle that it's beneficial if I can visualize where they are through the pot. If I'm drawing a vessel where the spout is, say, on the other side of the teapot, partly hidden by the curvature of the rest of the vessel. Now, obviously I don't do these drills every single time I draw, but if I'm feeling particularly out of practice, then I find it's a really good place to start. Now, the last thing I want to discuss is something I see all the time in people's drawn pots. Ultimately, I understand that it could be a stylistic choice, but I think in many instances it isn't. Instead, it's an error that immediately destroys the perspective of the pot, and that's finishing them with a base that's flat, like so. The ellipses at the top are correct, but they aren't followed through at the bottom, and it completely takes them out of reality, as if you hold a cylindrical object in front of you, or place it on a surface. It's practically impossible to see it how it appears in the illustration on the left. Instead, in actuality, unless it's a really big object or you're very close to it, the base should end in an ellipse that matches the top. This is unless, of course, you're looking at a perfect side view of the object, but if there's an ellipse and curve at the top, generally it's mirrored in the bottom. If you're looking at it from the side, then yes, you can have a flat top and a flat bottom, more or less. Although there is still some subtle curvature, but I think that's mainly due to the wide-angle lens of the camera. And then when we tilt it the other way, the full ellipse is now on the bottom of the piece, yet the lip at the top still matches this curve. How the curves are seen on one end are generally the same on the other. I think it helps to base them in reality a tiny bit more, and I think it helps to make them jump off the page as a three-dimensional object. So, generally when I'm drawing with just pens, I begin by drawing the ellipses which I'll then connect, in this case with an angular body, and these lines always mirror each other. Then I draw some directional lines on certain parts of the pot to give those flat planes some directional shape. Then you can attach new shapes. The handle, in this instance, I then use the pen with a thicker nib to further define some of the lines, and I can also hide some of the scruffier penmanship with this. But again, ultimately pots are just a whole bunch of ellipses that are connected. Take a teapot for instance. There are 8 of them from top to bottom, but of course you don't actually have to draw all of them in their entirety. Sometimes you only need the front or back to define the shape. I then draw some quick directional lines across the piece, and then I can draw the spout and the handle. In a way, I quite like doing these messy ink drawings, as I think gradually it's made me more confident, as I don't have to rely on sketching everything out with a pencil beforehand, so that I'm more precise. There's a time and a place for those more careful drawings, but when I'm just sketching to see different iterations of, say, the same vessel, I honestly don't mind if they're messy, and if the lines overlap, or if there are inconsistencies or mistakes, as again, these types of illustrations are for me. They're informative and help me to visualize what it is I want to create when I'm actually on the wheel. The last thing I'd say is just keep some pots out in front of you when you draw, even if you aren't making direct copies of these. How the different planes on the shapes connect and how light and shadow falls over them can be extremely useful, as can picking them up and moving them around in order to see the parts you want to draw more clearly. I think it's a skill that's really useful, just like learning how to take photographs of your work, or being able to write confidently about it. Adding drawing to that list just helps add to the overall visual language you're able to express. And I won't hear the age-old excuse of, I can't draw, as being a reason to why you can't do it. It's a skill just like anything else, just like learning how to make pottery. The first pots I ever threw were terrible, but I enjoyed it. I liked the process, and I kept at it. Ultimately, being good at anything is mostly about practice. Of course, there are those who are naturally more inclined, but if you put your mind to it and take it seriously and really want to improve, you will. But if you hide behind that guise of, I can't draw, then of course you're never going to get better. And I genuinely think that most people are capable of anything, provided you put your mind to it. It's so similar to learning how to make pottery. You see something that you've done wrong. Then when you next attempt it, you know what the errors were and you try to do better. But again, like any skill, it's slow and gradual. But I find improvement happens the quickest when I have somebody who's really good at doing what they do show me how to do it, or when I dedicate some really serious time to that skill. So that's the rough penwork done. The handle is too large for the teapot, but there's no going back from that now. When I want to be more careful about the handles I draw, I first sketch them out with a pencil. This way it's easier to see their approximate size when positioned on the pot. I can also just rub out this small component if it feels wrong, redraw it, and try again. But on the whole, I think handles are probably one of the more difficult things to draw. And if there's one thing I always have to remember when doing them, is that it's absolutely fine to move the page beneath me, to rotate it into a better orientation, where it might be easier to draw a specific curve. Your hand isn't stationary, and your notebook and paper doesn't have to be either. With the fine penwork complete, I then go over certain lines in order to define certain parts of the pot I want to stand out. And like I said, by doing this you can hide messier penwork underneath it. I'll then do a tiny bit of shading if I feel the object needs it, and then some roughening up in places if and when I feel the need. Fundamentally, the way you draw pots is just as personal as the making process itself, and over the years I don't think I've ever seen two potters who do this in quite the same way, which is beautiful, really. Now, the last thing I draw lots of are cross-sections. Back when I was learning how to make pottery, especially lidded ceramics, I found sketching pots cut in half to be so useful, as it allowed me to see how they were assembled, or how different parts connected together, sort of like looking under the hood of a car. To draw these, I tend to draw a line through the centre, and then I section off certain parts of the body where the shape changed on the piece I'm copying. I like to draw one side with a cross-section, and one side with the object viewed from the outside. I then draw the cross-section of the walls of the pot, although in this case they are much thinner than they would actually ever be. The The most important part is then the gallery, and how the lid then slots on top of it. I think once you've done enough drawings like this, it honestly makes such a difference to your making, as again I think it helps you visualize what you're making and how you're going to finish it, even when you're just throwing and trimming the pieces. I guess this video isn't so much a tutorial, rather I hope it's a video that encourages you to draw and to visualize your pots in different ways. These are all skills that are transferable and they aid each other. I suppose it's also just a process that I really thoroughly enjoy. At times it's a really big part of what I do, and thus it's another aspect of my craft that I thought I'd like to share with you. I think the hardest thing for me with drawing is simply finding time to do it. As when you run a small business, there's just so much general admin you have to do, let alone producing the pottery and the videos I publish on YouTube once a week and the shorter videos I put on Instagram every other day. It's a lot, and I really wish I just had more time to actually draw like this. By the way, the beautiful black leather cover for my notebook is by Paper Republic, and many thanks to my partner for getting it for me, as I think it's helped rekindle something I've been missing dearly. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch, and I hope you liked this slightly different but still pottery adjacent video. If illustration is part of your craft, I'd love to see the drawings you do, even if they're scruffy and messy and covered in clay, or shavings of wood or soot from a forge. They're a maker's mind unfurled on paper, and often, like a craftsperson's workshop, they're normally just as interesting as the work that person produces. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.